Hello and welcome to the Boat Neck. In this week's video, I am working on the cabin sole or the cabin floorboards in the Sailmaster 22. The original boards, which I'm leaving, I had some of it. I'm leaving those in. It's made out of walnut, and I didn't have any walnuts. I'm just using some mahogany that I've got, and I'll just eventually stain it to match, and then seal it. The walnut was a good choice actually for several reasons, but I just don't have any. This will be the last video on the Sailmaster 22 for a little while, maybe for a month or so. I've been sidetracked on a couple of other boats that I'm working on as well. So after this video, it'll probably start a few videos on this Liberty Yachts Pied Piper 28, which is this boat here, that I've been working on for the last probably a month. But it's coming along pretty good. I'm glad I brought it home to work on it. I have already made some pretty good progress. I just got through rebuilding the Edson pedestal here. Replaced the bearings and the brake and odds and ends, and so that's why I'm out here. But like I said, I just want to give you a heads up. This will be not the last video forever, but the last video for a while on the Sailmaster 22, just because of getting sidetracked on some other stuff. But I will be back to it. Hopefully I'll be back to it soon. Thanks for watching. Alright, so I'm going to do a little repair here where this corner was busted off this floorboarding. I've got to glue this little strip back down right here. It's still intact at the end, but it's busted up here, so I'm going to clean that out good. I'm going to epoxy that down. They're not rotten at all, they're just a little weathered. So what I'm going to do is take my skill saw, and I've got it set on a 50-degree bevel. I believe that's what I've got it set on. Actually, it's set on a 56-degree bevel, which is the absolute heaviest bevel I can get, because I want as much gluing surface as I can get. So I'm going to undercut this at 56 degrees. Bevel it up under like that to give me a nice wide glue surface. I'll cut the matching reverse bevel on that and just scarf it in like that right there and epoxy it in. And I've got to redo the cleats on the back side. The screws are all corroded. Okay, so there's that wedge cut out. Okay, this had a little bit of a bow in it, so I've weighted both ends and put a board under it in the middle just to try to take out a little bit of the bow. It's 15 pounds on each end. Just got it dry fitted, and what I've done, I've just got two boards clamped, and this here just slides in between them. That keeps it level right here on the surface, and then I can just bump it in to get it tight. Put a screw behind it if I need to, but I don't think I'll need to. And this is sitting on top of the cleat that's underneath it, screwed to this, so that keeps it level on this end. So I just need to mix up some thickened epoxy and glue it up. And of course this right here, the little paper clip thing, that make really good clamps. That'll hold that in place while that cures. And this is slightly oversized in length, but also in width. Once it's set up, I'll come back and trim it, and then trim the width. Got it glued together and repaired. And like I said, I just took a clamp and clamped two boards together, top and bottom, and then wedged this other one between it. And then I drove a wedge right there. I drove a wedge behind the clamp, the C-clamp, to push the board in tight, just as I was tightening everything up. And then on this side, I put the pipe clamp on it. And again, I'm not putting tons of pressure on it, just enough to get good solid squeeze out and pull it up close. And again, I used the colloidal silica for strength, and I added just a little bit of the fairing filler to get that brownish red color to so that my glue joint will a bit better blend in with the color of the wood once it's finished. It also makes it sticky, an initial tackiness, I guess you could say, and it also helps it not sag. So I've ripped these 2 7/8 wide, and then I'm going to just do a shiplap or a lap joint rather than tongue and groove, and I'm going to epoxy them together. Okay, so you can see there what I've done. I've just done a real simple shiplap on the table saw, and then that'll be glued together with thickened epoxy to make my floor, and then there'll be a cleat under the bottom side, screwed to the boards, you know, to keep them flat in the boat. The way the original floor is, it's tongue and groove. What's in the boat's not even glued. It's just dry fitted, and then there's a cleat on the bottom that holds them in place. But I'm gonna glue these. Okay, I've just made up a little bit of a jig. Got my first board screwed down beyond, you know, where it'll be trimmed. And I've got it up on runners on top of my table saw because I wanted a nice flat place, so that table saw is good and flat. Got plastic down to protect the table saw, and I've got my pipe clamps set up and ready, and some weights, and if need be I'll cut some shims or whatever else I need to clamp it together and keep it flat. I put me a reference line across the center there just to know where to line them all up at, how I had them dry fitted. With the epoxy, you don't need a lot of pressure, but still, you know, the pipe clamps help to, you know, get rid of any gaps that you got. I left the cuts ever so slightly loose, I guess would be a better way to say it. My shiplap joints are just ever so slightly loose to allow for a little bit of room for epoxy, and I'm talking about like a 64th or something, not much. Well, I'm going to take just some little scrap sticks, drops from the table saw, and I'm going to use them to glue up my template here for this floor. I'm going to use the piece I've cut as my temporary floor as my template, since it's already almost right. And then I'll just take the hot glue gun there, and I'll just glue some pieces. Well, they don't walk them all to do it. So I just used some little scrap sticks from the table saw scrap and glued them around the edge. Used a little hot glue gun and just, you know, fit them around the edge and glued them down. Yeah, there's a little blood there. I cut my finger. Okay, I've turned my piece over, so I'm going to be cutting it from the back side. Got my template flipped over so that when I mark it, it'll be marking it the appropriate way. And then lining up my joints or my grooves in the decking, the floor decking that's in the boat. I've got a problem. I'm going to line up with 2 of the 3 panels. I'm going to get alignment with the forward one up in the V-berth. I'll get pretty good alignment with that one, and I'll get alignment with one of the ones under the companionway stairs. Well, it actually fits, but it's a little bit too tight right here because it needs to come this way just a touch, and then this side over here will be a touch looser like it's supposed to be. And if you look way up there, you can see that I've got the joints lining up with the joints in that forward section pretty close, which was probably the main thing, because that's the main thing you see when you come in the boat. And of course, once they're all sanded and sealed and varnished together, they'll be good. And then on this side, the joints line up. That's an old original one, I guess. And then this one has been evidently replaced. You can see that the varnish on it looks a lot newer. Now, one thing I do have to do I have to undercut this corner right here and right here, because right now it's sitting up high because it's actually hitting the hull. You can see under here where the hull is at, that I've got to undercut to get this piece to go down until it hits the floor, the floor framing, and I'll have to kind of tweak that a little bit. And then the rest of it is just high because it's thicker, which I've got to plane down, or I've got a hand planer I can probably plane off the backside with. And there's what I mean by undercutting that corner where it was hitting the hull. Okay, I've just used the belt sander and went over the top of it with 80 grit to get the joints flat and flatten out the overall. Kind of hit it at like a 45-degree angle like that to kind of blend it in, to keep from getting, ripples like that. That's got it in pretty good shape for that course pass. Now I'm going to switch over to a 120 belt and go with the grain to get rid of all my scratch marks. And then I'll switch over to a 220 and my little random orbital sander. All right, there's the floor panels all cut to fit and in, and that piece scarfed in right there. I think this is the companionway ladder I'm going to use. I was going to build me one, but I had this one out in my storage building, and I think it came out, I'm not sure what it came out of. Maybe a Kittyweight 23 or something, I'm not sure. But anyway, I like the way that it is cut so that it doesn't protrude out into the cabin very far at the bottom. And the steps are pretty even. They're actually, the length is really nice. Well, here is a mock-up of what I'm doing for my stairs here. Steps, companionway steps. This is teak, and it's being repurposed from another boat that got scrapped. And then I used a mahogany board here, and then this is teak where it wraps around to the outside, so it'll match the teak trim on the outside. And I've just got a double radius here where they come together. And then I've got these little brackets that that goes on like that, and that goes on like that, and then those stairs lock in place, and to take them out you just lift straight up about an inch and a half, and it pops loose so you can take the stairs loose. So I've got some of those, which also were salvaged from the same boat this came from. There is a 2x5 behind this backer for this, between that and the fiberglass here, and that's actually made out of pressure treated. Like I say, this is teak, and then that's my hatch boards slide right behind that. So this will get all bedded in here real carefully. Across here, the pressure treated board that's underneath that gets bedded in, as well as there's some screws that go through the fiberglass down into that board, and that stiffens this whole thing up. And then it also gives me something to fasten this to without drilling through fiberglass and having more holes exposed. All of these holes are drilled 3/8 in countersunk. The screws are dropped down in a hole, in a 3/8 inch hole, and I'll put 3/8 inch bungs in all these holes, so they're just not done yet. But I think that's going to work okay. I've still got it saying I forgot to radius that right there. I need to put a radius on that corner right there and right there. I've got it on everything else, but I missed those, so I need to do that. And there it is, all installed. Got the little locking brackets put in. Everything's bedded in good. Like I said, just got to put in my plugs, which I'll do all that when I get everything done, because I don't have any more need to cut. What I like about this little stair or ladder, see how the foot of it kind of returns back to a plumb line there, vertical. Keeps it from protruding out into my little limited cabin space. And you may notice down here at the bottom, throw some light down here, Down here at the bottom, you notice these little holes here and here, and you notice how they line up almost perfectly with this set of steps. So I'll be able to put a throw latch here and here to lock it into the floor panel as well, to the floorboard as well. That's where the old ladder would have been fastened at the bottom, either with a throw latch or either with a pin in the bottom of the leg that just set in the hole either way. And then from the outside, you can see there it just gives a little bit of a curb to stop water from coming in whenever you've got your hatch boards in or wash boards in.